Hello and welcome to Higher or Lower, brought to you by oddschecker and Spreadex. This is the show where we look at the spread betting markets ahead of the weekend's football in the Premier League and the Championship, and we look at the midpoint in Spreadex's markets. We go higher if we think it'll be higher, and we'll go lower if we think it's going to be lower. Easy as that. I'm your host, George Elek, and I'm delighted to be joined by Jack Wright and WhoScored's Dan Worth. And guys, last week I was a bit cocky, I think. Because if you didn't see last week, I got 7 from 8 the week before.
Oh, was it? I'd nearly forgotten that.
So let's move on from last week. No, I mean, Jack, you got half of them right, which I think on a tough slate wasn't a bad effort. Dan and I got 2 out of 8. I was eyeing up a bagel. I was 0 from 6. Managed to get the last 2 right. I think I probably wouldn't be here. I've had one of Dan's mystery colds, I think, if I'd managed that. But let's put last week to one side. But it does mean that I'm now still heading the way on 56% over the course of the season. Jack, you're 49%. Dan, 42%, which is the same as the population on Twitter. So it means our total combined 50%. Well done, the traders at Spreadex. Let's get into the markets this week straight away. And we're kicking off in the Championship, where Birmingham hosts QPR. This is the total goals market, so just the amount of goals scored in the game. The midpoint is 2.3, so it's 2.2 to sell, 2.4 to buy. If you buy at 2.4 and there are 3 goals, you win exponentially above that number. Sell at 2.2, you want it to be lower. So 2.3 is the line here. Are we going higher or lower? 3, 2, 1. I'm going higher. Dan's going higher. Jack, I would lord my whole EFL thing over you, but last week I went for Southampton and they lost 4-1 against Leicester. So. I'll hand over the crown to you.
Every dog has its day, as they say. Yeah, broken clock and all that. Yeah, try out the phrases. Well, look, it's a low line, but I'm going to take it on. I've just got that gut feeling with this one that it will be a low-scoring affair. Going into the stats of it doesn't necessarily support that, so this is more of a case of what I expect this game to be than anything else, I think. Saying that, 5 of 7 have gone lower for Birmingham this season, including 2 of their 3 at home, and the one that didn't, there was a 90 plus 5 minute winner for them against Plymouth. Only 3 of 7 QPR games, and only 1 of their 4 away have been under, but it was their last one, so we'll take hope on that one for me, certainly. I just feel that Birmingham have had a little bit of a wobble. They started the season very strong. They've kind of just dipped underneath that in the last couple of games, and we'll obviously mark this down as a very much a winnable game. Are Birmingham the sort of side that I think are going to set up and blitz a team? I don't think that. I think they're generally good from their strength at the back, keeping things tight and say nicking a close win. So that's how I'm predicting the game to go. So their last couple of games have been pretty tight. They conceded 2 in injury time against Watford to lose last weekend after that red card. Lost to the league leaders Preston, but limited them only to 3 shots on target. So I think they do keep things tight, and they are unbeaten at home. QPR, I think, will be a tougher prospect than many probably suspected at the start of the season. I had them pretty much down and out, and I think they're certainly doing better than that. They've kind of kept a couple of key players doing pretty well. Lost both these head-to-heads against Birmingham last season without scoring. So I'm hoping for exactly the same kind of scenario there. The last 11 at St Andrews in the league produced just 18 goals. That's an average of 1.64, with 9 of those coming under this mark. So I've gone with that. No razzmatazz on a Friday night football. We're going for a tight and cagey, close fought game. Yeah,
I kind of see that. It's a low line, but I guess for the purpose of this, it's kind of the same as if the line was 2.9, isn't it? So, but yeah, I mean, with QPR, Gareth Ainsworth is clearly getting something out of them now. Like if you look on opening day in the back end of last season, it was not going particularly well for him. The 2-1 win at Cardiff was a bit of a turning point, and their performances have generally been okay since then. But we've seen them cover the over 2.5 line, which is what you need to cover here in order for Dan and I to be right, in that away game against Watford, in that away game against Cardiff, in the away game against Southampton as well, and in the 2-0 win over Middlesbrough. It was a game where they definitely kind of lived on the edge, with Borough having plenty of chances. So almost on the balance of the play, they should be 4 from 4 away from home in covering this. You've also got the 3-1 home defeat against Sunderland just the other day. So even though they're doing better, he's still basically unable to get his side to keep a clean sheet at the moment. I don't think they've kept one. They've kept one this season against Borough. Yeah. When you consider that Birmingham, I do think, have way better attacking options now than they've had in the past. I think in Adam Stansfield in particular, they've got a player who is very, very good and has started life well in there. And for Birmingham, it's a home game. As you say, they've taken 1 point from their last 3. It's a big game for them to have to basically come back and show what they're all about. They haven't been anywhere near as bad as the 2 defeats than the last couple. Like, they were unlucky to be beaten by Preston last time, having gone 1-0 up. It was the red card that cost them the defeat against Watford too. So, yeah, I think QPR will struggle to keep Birmingham at bay. QPR are finding ways to create chances at the moment. I can definitely see both teams scoring in this, and therefore I'm just, not strong, but just, I reckon 3 is basically what I'm looking for here. Dan?
Yeah. I'm looking for 3 as well, yeah. I genuinely think this is such a tough one, and I guess the traders almost look like they know what they're doing.
Well done the traders.
Yeah, always praising the traders. Both sides combined are averaging 2.1 goals per game, which obviously doesn't back up my argument, so I probably should have left that out. But I can just see this going either way, and on a Friday night, I'm looking for fun, so I'm going higher. I don't want to err on the side of caution.
Friday night, I'm looking for fun.
Yeah, exactly. I think QPR will be looking to bounce. Sorry, they won't, because they'll be uplifted by their late goal.
Yeah.
And they'll look to
Although,
continue it.
I don't know if QPR fans are uplifted generally at the moment, but yeah.
No, probably not. But I think I'm siding with you that both teams will score here, and then we just need one more.
Then we just need one more, exactly. So that is Dan and I going higher than 2.3 goals in that Friday night clash between Birmingham and QPR. On to the Premier League stuff now, and it's the Saturday 5:30 kickoff between Brentford and Everton next. Here we're looking at the supremacy. So this is the amount of goals by which one team will outscore the other or beat the other. The midpoint for this one is Brentford, who are favourites, 0.7. So if we're going to go higher here, you're basically backing Brentford to win. Lower, and you're getting the draw on side as well as an Everton victory. We're going higher or lower here. 3, 2, 1. Same again.
Oh, here we go. You two ganging up on me.
Sean Dyche's Everton on the road, Jack. Come
yes,
on,
indeed.
this.
What can go wrong?
Nothing.
I changed this at the last minute, actually. I
saw Dan getting the higher out. You're like,
yeah, not quite that last minute, but late last night was a change of heart. I originally was on Brentford side. I'm going with effectively the old tried and trusted for me this season. Going effectively getting the double chance or getting the draw on side. Brentford's 7th best home record in the Premier League last season, but 7 draws alongside the 2 defeats as well, and 3 draws from 3 this season too against Spurs, Palace and Bournemouth. So a variety of opponent there, you'd suggest. The 10 draws combined is the highest total in the league since the start of last season. One of those, of course, being against Everton. This one ended 1-1 last season, and Everton drew 9 themselves. You see, I'm focusing on the draw here a lot, aren't I? I'm mentioning that quite a lot. So, surprised me actually to fair. Everton only lost 8 times on the road last season, which was the same as Villa, Spurs, Liverpool, and Man United, who obviously all finished inside the top 10. So they've got a fairly bad record away from home as far as Wigan's concerned, but they are quite tricky to beat, and that's the basis of what I'm going on here. Only 3 defeats under Dyche away from home last season. That was the Liverpool, Arsenal and Manchester United, so a pretty decent bunch there. Beat Brighton, 5-1 of course. Won't be expecting that to happen again too soon. But and obviously did get beaten by Villa this season, but picked up that draw against Sheffield United as well. So the elements for Brentford going against Brentford here is Rico Henry. I think is a big player for them. He's now injured, apparently out for the season. So joining obviously Ivan Toney as their 2 on the sidelines for different reasons, of course. But and with Everton, there's a bit of a contrast as far as their injuries are concerned, with Dominic Calvert-Lewin coming back again. Yep. If they can keep him fit, that has the makings of a decent double act up top with Better if he's going to go with 2 up top. Also, Dwight McNeil came back last week to his first start, and he was their top goal scorer last season after all. So positives on that side of it. Obviously, they have been described as dreary this season, but I think they've probably taken dreary.
Who described them as dreary?
It's Gene Ev.
Okay.
Yeah, Gene Ev. Yeah, for those who missed it.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, all right. There we are. Yeah, Gary Neville.
Yeah.
But they're sitting 10th in the expected points table, although Brentford are 5th as well. So, for the interest of balance, and they did make Arsenal work pretty hard for that win last week, albeit that was obviously at Goodison Park. But they need to build on that now and start picking up some points against lesser lights. And I just feel they might well be able to grab a point here or potentially a surprise away win against Brentford that are just sort of struggling to get the wins on the board. That's where I'm going with it.
Dan?
Yeah, I haven't seen anything yet this season that makes me want to side with Everton at all.
Not a 10th in the expected points table.
Yeah, that doesn't do anything for me, I'm afraid.
XG of 8.5.
You want real points, not
Yeah,
expected points.
I want
You're
real
like
points.
Sean,
Living in the
you
real
and
world.
Sean Dyche got on
Yeah,
really
yeah.
well.
Yeah, exactly. Like, they've not won in their last 5 and they've struggled scoring.
They have.
Obviously, they will be boosted by Calvert-Lewin, although his little cameo against Arsenal didn't prove much to me. They have been creating chances. I think they've had 10 big ones so far, which is in the top half of the league. But they're just not scoring them. And I've got this game down as not a massive scoring game. So it would literally just come down to the most clinical side. And I think even you'll have to agree, Jack, you have to assume that will be Brentford over Everton. So I'm higher.
Higher, yeah, I'm also going higher. I just think with Everton, if you take Everton's 2 away games this season, they went to a team that I think aren't dissimilar in terms of quality in Aston Villa. I know Aston Villa have better individuals, but in terms of where I expect them to finish. And they were beaten 4-0, and they were well beaten. And I think Sheffield United could probably feel aggrieved that they didn't win the 2-all game as well. So I think they've been kind of actively... I basically think if Everton are going to stay up this season, it's going to be their Goodison form that's going to do it. And I think, I would almost see the Arsenal game as being false form because that's that Goodison going to Brentford, where Brentford are so strong at home as well. Even though they haven't won any of their last 3 at home in the league, they haven't lost since April, where they were beaten by Newcastle. That was only 1 defeat. They've got dating back about 20 Premier League games. So
only lost 2 last season, admittedly.
Exactly. So it's always tempting to get the draw on side, but I think Brentford are, they're odds on to win this game with good reason, and I think they should have too much for Everton on the day. So next up then, third game, we've got 2 markets in this one. It's Burnley against Manchester United. Manchester United fresh off one of the worst 4-3 games of all time in midweek, where they lost 4-3 in Munich. Harry Kane amongst the goal. Well, yeah, he scored one of the goals against them. Burnley, a 1-1 draw against Nottingham Forest in midweek and getting their first point of the season.
Yep.
I don't know where their first point is going to come from.
I don't know where their second point is going to come
I thought
from.
surely you should have said, I don't know where their first win is going to come from.
It's what I meant.
Yeah.
You knew what I meant.
They're just going to sit on 0 points. Right, total goals here. The midpoint is 3.05. So 3.05 the midpoint. We're going higher or lower. 3, 2, 1. Yeah, I've learned from my mistakes here, but you go first.
Yeah, well, I clearly haven't. I'm just going to start by saying Twitter agree with both of you. 60% of our Twitter voters have gone lower. But we all know my thoughts on Burnley after last week. And yeah, fair play. You got your point. Over 2.5 goals in United's last 3 Prem games and 3 against Bayern. Although I don't think you can really compare Burnley and Bayern. But we'll see. I think this is quite a good line. And
some comparisons, yeah.
Yeah, they both begin with B.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's it. That's it. Last season, these matchups had 4 and 2. So yeah, average is 3. Again, I think that 0.5 could be massive here. But I think United are going to hammer Burnley. And I can see...
United going to hammer Burnley?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think you're just trying to wind George up
every
week.
Happy place.
No. Yeah. No, that is what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can see United winning by 3 at least here. And despite me not liking Burnley, United's defence is looking pretty shocking, so I wouldn't be too surprised to see Burnley get on the score sheet too. So I think 4 could be in the bag.
Yeah, I wouldn't surprise me at all if this is a high-scoring game. I think both teams, like Burnley, are a side who I was actually a bit burnt. I was over goals in their Forest game, which didn't cop. But
somehow,
yeah. But I do just think that they are normally a very open side, and we know from United as well, especially midweek. We've seen at times this season that they are too. But it's just that 0.5. Like it's the same question. You're basically, if it was 3.95, you've got the same line as you've got at the moment with the higher or lower.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But it means more profit when 4 does come in.
Yeah, I'll just say, but that's not what we're measuring, is it?
No,
So yeah, I would caveat this by saying, would I be selling goals at 3.05 for a tenner? Probably not. But I think for the purpose of higher or lower, given what the line is, and given that I think United certainly haven't hit their stride in terms of being an attacking side as of yet, And maybe what we saw against Forest was Vincent Kompany just seeing that maybe we've got to change our strategy a little bit coming up from the Championship. We can't just play gung-ho, expansive attacking football, especially against a side like United. So I want 0-1 at 2 and 3 onside for me.
Yeah, I'll try and pick out the things that you already haven't said there, but it's just a high line, really. Is there 4 goals in this? I need 4 goals for me to lose this particular selection. Possibly, but I'd rather have, as you say, 0, 1, 2 and 3 on side for that. They have had goals, and so also said that Burnley have kind of got a little bit of foothold in the league now. That first point, which we wondered where the hell was going to come from, there it was at the City Ground. And so there, Noel Foster in this one as well, who looked very lively up front, so that would potentially be a blow as far as the goals are concerned. And I think this quick turnaround for United is the main one for me as well here. 3 defeats on the spin. They're going to want to try and bounce back from that. They're going to need to. A defeat to Burnley here would be complete disaster for them. So how's the best way they're going to go about it? I just feel they're going to look to be a bit more tight and compact. So defensively they've been a shambles. They've now conceded 3 in the last 3 competitive games. That's the first time they've done that since 1978.
Wow.
And I was just about born then. So a long time ago. Onana's error last night as well has meant there's more focus on that defence. So I think that's where Ten Hag's focus will be, just to try and keep it a little bit tighter and go from there. And I think Højlund looked very isolated as well. So getting him involved in the game is going to be crucial for Man United, and they just don't seem to be able to connect those dots at the moment. So let's say happy to have the 0, 1, 2 and 3 on side with this line.
Same game, Marcus Rashford, just 1 goal so far in the Premier League, hasn't been able to live up to last season's standards as of yet. The spread here is 23-26, so the midpoint 24.5. Are we going higher or lower? 3, 2, 1. Dan, you couldn't stick that lower up fast enough.
Ready?
You've been burnt too many times.
Yeah, I've been burnt too many times.
But I've gone higher.
You have.
He scored 1 goal so far from 2.2 expected. It's coming. Burnley play with very
home, yeah.
Burnley play with very high fullbacks. It kind of suits him perfectly playing off that left-hand side. I think, I think Højlund being in now is going to enable Rashford to play off his favoured left. Also means he's got a physical presence to play off. Even though I went lower on the goals, as I said, it wouldn't surprise me at all if we did see plenty of goals. Rashford will play 90 if he's fit. Yeah, I think he's the likeliest United goal scorer. It wouldn't surprise me at all if this is a game that United do at least score in. And I think he is due not just 1, but some goals. So this is a case where, like in the past, we've had, Jackson was similar to this, I guess, but in the past we've chosen players. There was that famous Solly Marsh one where you thought he was going to continue scoring and get 48 in a season. But you want to, in my mind at least, you basically want to short players when they're on runs that are unsustainable and get with players when they are due. And I think Rashford is undoubtedly due. And I'd be amazed if we didn't see him get into at least a couple of pretty good goal scoring opportunities. He had 9 shots last weekend on his own, which is pretty wild. So I'm going for the classic. I'll probably score after 10 minutes, that'll be it. But I'm going over here, 24.5. Dan, you said off air before we started, you've been burnt by this. You've learnt your lesson. You're now just going to go low on everyone. So is that the thinking here?
Yeah,
seller's market.
Yeah, seller's market.
Yeah.
I have been burnt on this. I don't think I've got a player goal minutes bet right so far this series, but here is the one that's going to draw me out of the doldrums. Let's hope. I think with Rashford, just his new position, albeit his favourite one, or so he says, he still has a few question marks as to his role. And I think with Højlund in the side, maybe Ten Hag is in his ear that he needs to be more of a provider than the main guy to score all of the goals. And I think we might see that here. It does seem strange for me to say there'll be loads of goals and then say Rashford won't be involved or won't score any of them. But I think if this was Højlund player goal minutes we were looking at, I probably would be on the other side of it, but I think it might be a blank for Rashford.
Okay.
Yeah, 5 league games, 1 goal, 23 shots, 6 on target, so 26% accuracy from him this season. 17 last season, said, and I mentioned it last season, I mentioned it at the start of this season when we talked about him in the futures as well, that that new contract, is it going to inspire him? It was last season based on the fact that he needed to kind of prove himself for a new contract, be it at Old Trafford or somewhere else. And now he's back into that little bit of a comfort zone. Remember, he only got 4 goals the season before last and 11 before that. So not massively prolific until last season. Are we going to see a kind of repeat of that? A little bit on the periphery against Brighton and Munich. It was accused of seeing in parts of a lack of interest. And I agree with you. I think he is being developed a little bit as far as learning to kind of make that right choice and provide for Haaland. He's done it a couple of times. That goal disallowed last week as well was obviously as a result of his good work. So seemingly just taking that one touch too many at the moment. Just think he's just in that bit of a funk. So that's why I'm going a bit lower and keeping up with my trend this week of quoting former England fullbacks. Don't know if you heard the one last night that was accused Rashford of tracking back like he's got a fridge on his back.
Brilliant.
Stuart Pearce, in case you missed it.
Full of pundit sound bites. Have you got any more to come?
Yeah. You'll have to wait to see.
Okay.
Stay tuned.
On to Stoke and Hull. Maybe if you listen to a certain podcast, you might have one here about. Neither really spoken about recently. Stoke. we're looking at supremacy here. Stoke over Hull. Stoke are favourites. Stoke drew 2-2 on Wednesday evening at Huddersfield in Neil Warnock's last game in charge at Huddersfield. Possibly ever, probably not.
Probably not.
Hull were held to a 0-0 draw at home to Leeds, where they didn't really see much of the chances until Leeds had a man sent off, and then they kind of dominated and missed an unbelievably easy chance late on. So two sides come off the back of a midweek draw. Stoke are 0.5, so half a goal favourites here is the midpoint. So again, if you're going over, you're backing a Stoke win. Under or lower, it is a Hull or draw. 3, 2, 1. All of us going lower.
Full agreement.
Very nice.
Jack, you can take us away. Jack, you take us away.
Yeah, sorry. We said Dan. You kind of hit the nail on the head with those points about Stoke ended that run of 3 straight defeats, obviously with that draw against Huddersfield, and also the fact they lost all 3-0. So give them a little bit of confidence. But I was fortunate enough to see them in the flesh last weekend, and they were very, very passive in that first half, especially. Gave complete and utter control of the game over to Norwich and sort of paid the price. Second half was better, but they just lacked confidence totally in the final third. Just seemed that they maybe they'll get a spark from those goals in midweek. But Alex Neil cut a very frustrated figure. His comments after kind of echoed that as well. Ben Pearson's won the race to be suspended, the first player suspended this season, 5 yellow cards already. And I've got a man in the pot trees who informs me the defending from set pieces last night was shambolic. So there's chances Hull can take advantage there. I think they're going to struggle against a Hull side that I actually like Rosenior as a coach. I think he's very well organised and obviously they're a very well coached outfit. 6 in the table. Should have been 4th after that miss, Traore last night. And if anyone's not seen it, then that was I don't know what the XG on it was, but...
well, apparently it was one of the silly ones where it was like 0.68, but it should have been about 0.95.
At least, yeah. So look, that would have put them up in 4th, and I think that would have been a fair reflection. 6 games unbeaten now. Unlucky to lose their opening game of the season as well for a contentious moment and a very, very late winner. 12 points against some half-decent sides. Leicester, Leeds, Coventry, Norwich, Blackburn, Bristol City, Sheffield Wednesday. And say Stoke have looked good against Rotherham only, really, this season and struggled after that point of time. So, again, having the draw on side here, I think, is massive. I like Hull in this one at a good price, but I'll certainly be taking the supremacy here for them.
Yeah, I totally agree. Hull have only been beaten once this season. That was away at Norwich on opening day in the league. So they're operating at a very high standard. The only loss they had was by a solitary goal. They're defensively very sound. Rosenior's shaping them into a really good side. And with Stoke, looking at like kind of March or April, I was excited about Stoke this season. I felt like Alex Neil was building something that was kind of going the right way, but a massive churn of players over the summer, which I'm not really entirely sure why they did that. It didn't really feel necessary. I'm not sure too many of the players they brought in have settled in particularly well, especially the attacking players like Wesley, who came in from a pretty shambolic spell at Villa, being one example. It feels like it's it's a work in progress for now, and until I see yielding some results, especially off the back of 1 point from their last 3, 1 point from their last 4, I'm finding it pretty hard to get to side with them here. I think having the draw and Hull on side is the way to play this. Mm-hmm. Even though I would say they did put in a much better attacking performance on Wednesday night than we've seen in recent weeks. I
agree with both of you.
Great.
The only thing I have to offer on top of that is just to reiterate that they've struggled in front of goal. Stoke. They are the 3rd lowest in terms of shots on target per game with just 2.6, which says it all really for me. I think Stoke will struggle here. I think Hull will set up nicely. I'm expecting a low-scoring affair, but as we've all said, I want the draw and Hull on my side, so lower.
On to NLD, North London derby, Arsenal hosting Tottenham in what must be one of the most hotly anticipated North London derbies in a while, where for once both teams quite good. So that hasn't been the case very often in recent times. Arsenal, of course, are the favourites with home advantage at 0.85 as a midpoint, so it's 0.75 to sell, 0.95 to buy. So again, buying here, going higher here is just backing an Arsenal win. The draw in Spurs lower, 3-1.
Oh no.
You've fallen for it.
Yeah.
You've fallen for it.
It's just my typical tactic of getting the draw on side.
Okay.
Again, I kind of said Everton haven't shown anything that I've liked. Tottenham haven't shown me anything that I've disliked. And I think, they haven't won a Premier League match at the Emirates since 2010, which I guess probably gives you guys some ammunition, but I think they're definitely due. I think they're definitely good enough. Big Ange can do no wrong. He's won over the crowd. And even non-supporters of Tottenham, which I think is a massive achievement. But a derby win really would be the cherry on the cake. And that's exactly what I'm going for.
Yeah, not long to I think we can get Ange for Prime Minister campaigns. Jack?
Well, we've had worse, certainly. I just want to side with Arsenal here. I think they really impressed me last week. Not necessarily because of their beautiful football and a beautiful goal, but that's a tough place to go for them, especially a lot of history there going to Everton, a bit of a bogey ground. And they kind of dug it out, ground out the victory. So there was the contentious goal ruled out, which could have been a blow to their kind of confidence. But they kept going. You could sense that there's the game they absolutely dominated, but going there and getting like an hour on the clock and still being level, that must have been, what could have been in the back of the mind, the fact that Everton are going to get one chance, a set piece, or Everton are going to nick a win again. But they didn't, kept going, kept it well together. So that kind of, in a way, impressed me a little bit more than the fact that they blew PSV away last night 4-0, which is exceptional. Arteta described the win against Everton as an incredible team performance. And so they're not being really at the best, but I think they are now starting to click. But they're still taking 13 points from 15 in the league. 4th in the table, unbeaten as well. Declan Rice has fitted in seamlessly. He's been a great addition to them as well. And what I like about them is they've got such a good squad at the moment that players that aren't really getting starting time are coming in and they're taking the chances. Trossard in particular, I got the winner against Everton, a goal and assist against PSV. Limited game time, but he's their 3rd highest goal involvement since he joined the club, behind only Saka and Martinelli, I believe. And obviously great result last night. Brilliant atmosphere. It's going to be even louder this Sunday as well. I think that's something that the Emirates has certainly got going for them at the moment as well. And what I like about the Arsenal players is they're thriving on that atmosphere rather than it being a bit intimidating to them. And again, last night they had the opportunity to put in a brilliant performance, but also rest key players, Trossard, Zinchenko, Jesus, Saka, Rice, all come off with decent amount of time left on the clock. So that could have been a possible issue. Did the double over Spurs last season. I think, you're right, Spurs have done superbly well. Postecoglou's come in and given the football that they're craving. I just think that this might be a little bit of a step too far. They obviously created history last week with the latest comeback in EPL history, 98th minute, scoring twice after the 98th minute to claim more 3 points against Sheffield United. I think this is just a little bit step up, and I think it's going to be a very entertaining one, but I think Arsenal edge it.
Yeah, I massive respect for what Spurs are doing. Yeah. It's possible not to be impressed by them, but this is Arsenal at home. For Tottenham to come into this and get a point would be a brilliant result for them. And I think when you're kind of balancing what is likely, yes, Tottenham have been fantastic so far, but that doesn't change the fact that Arsenal have way more form in the book over a longer period of time. Frankly, have just much better players as well. Like that is for Ange Postecoglou to do what he's doing with that group of Spurs players is what makes it so impressive. But when you bring Saka, Martinelli, Jesus, Odegaard to the table, not to mention, Declan Rice, who's now in, like, this is an Arsenal side who have genuine aspirations to push City for the title. If Spurs were able to do that, it would be one of the most unbelievable first season jobs I think we've ever seen. So there is a gap still between these two, and until I see that gap close, I think you have to still side with Arsenal, even at the 0.85 supremacy midpoint. In the same game, though, we're going to look at first match goal. So this is the time where the first goal is scored in the game. The midpoint here is 31.5, so 30 to sell, 33 to buy. You're selling or going lower if you think there's going to be a goal early in the game before the 31.5th minute, and higher if you think it's going to be after that time. So first match goal, we're going higher or lower, 3, 2, 1. Yeah, I'm going higher. Even though we know that Postecoglou and Spurs are very, very attack-minded, and we've seen their games generally be, ones where they come out the blocks very quickly. This is a derby game, and I think that generally, when there's so much at stake and there's a kind of palpable tension within stadiums, we often see basically the games that just more often than not disappoint are either clashes between sides right towards the top end of the table, derbies and playoff finals, and that's because they're the games where it means so much more basically not to make a mistake than it does, rather than kind of pushing forward. Now, obviously, both these managers encourage their players to have some degree of creative freedom, but at 31.5, because they're both so attack-minded, the line is very low, and I do think this can still end up being a game with plenty of goals, despite having quite a cagey start. So, yeah, I think and also for Spurs, as I say, it does feel like coming into this, a draw for them would be a decent result. So, yeah, I'm happy to go higher and hope that we don't see any goals in the first half hour. Dan?
Yeah, well, I was burnt last week with Arsenal in time of first goal, thanks to VAR doing me a massive disjustice. But I'm going again here, I'm going lower. I do kind of agree with what you're saying, but I looked back at the last three between these two sides at the Emirates. We've got the opening goal, 20th minute, 12th minute, 33rd minute. So I'm hoping we're more on the 12th and the 20th than the 33rd, which would be a small loss. And again, last night it only took 8 minutes to get in front against PSV. And I think Arteta will be telling his side more of the same, just absolutely go for it and attack Spurs. And I think either that will work nicely for Arteta, but it could also work in Spurs' favour, and they can go up the other end. And I can see there being early action, which is why I've gone for lower.
Jack?
Yeah, I'm taking this one as the exception to the rule that you correctly put out there earlier. I think the atmosphere is going to be a key part in this, and say two front foot, high octane sides. There is history of early goals in this fixture, so it has been sort of a bit of an exception to that general rule. And this season in the Premier League, the Emirates, we've seen a goal in the first minute, 26th and 27th minute. It was the 8th minute in the Champions League last night. Spurs away, 4th minute, 11th minute, 17th minute. So it is super fast starts. The last 11 head-to-heads here as well have seen 10 of those 11 see a goal before the 31st and a half minute. Yeah,
that kills me.
Come on,
that kills me.
Edit, change.
No, I'll stick with it.
Yeah, 10 of the 11. Yeah, so average time of the first goal in the last 11 meetings across all venues, across all competitions, is 17 minutes between these two sides. And if you'd backed it blind with this line, if it was there set in stone over the last 11, it'd be plus 160.5 as far as profit's concerned, an average of 14.5 per game. So 23 first half goals, 9 of those 11 have seen 2 or more goals, and including all of the last 8 as well. So a fairly strong pick. This is in fact my strongest pick.
Yeah, you've done me there.
Yeah,
you've done me there. If we could go back in time, I might change it off the back of that, but
it's about time.
So this will be, hopefully it'll be one of those wins where I win by having the worst XG or whatever you call it. Right, final market on this week's higher or lower is in Sheffield United against Newcastle, who play in the afternoon game on Sunday. This is last match goal, so separate to first match goal, this is when the last goal of the game is going to be scored. So 65.5 is the midpoint here. Going lower, you think that the last goal will be scored before that time, higher after that time. What have we got here? 3, 2, 1. Yeah, we're all in agreement. Dan, I know this is one you feel very strongly about.
Yes, I do. I mean, it's the only answer, isn't it?
The only answer.
Well, I guess there was.
Click that up when it's a 0-0 joy.
Well, that's what happened last week, isn't it? But yeah, there's been late goals galore so far, particularly between these two sides, and none more so than the weekend just gone. I think you already mentioned Sheffield United's late catastrophe. But looking at some of the times, Newcastle scored their last goal 90 plus in 3 out of their 5. And if you look at all the games between these sides in the Premier League so far, 60% of the games have seen goals in the 88th minute and beyond. So not only higher than 65.5, but quite significantly. So if you are buying on the spreads market, could be a nice bit of profit there for you if the form continues.
Yeah, lovely stuff, Jack.
Yeah, not much more to add on that. This should be tight and cagey. Expect, I think, generally people would assume that Newcastle will go and turn over Sheffield United, but I don't expect that to be the case. I'm quite sweet on Sheffield United getting a positive result out of this one, to be honest. Had a full week to stew on that late collapse versus Spurs and prepare for this one. And of course, Newcastle, a much needed win last weekend, but were in Milan for their European adventure on Tuesday. Great point there. A lot of defending, mind you. XG of 0.19 and just 1 shot on target. So I think Sheffield United have arguably been the most competitive, certainly as far as scorelines are concerned, of the promoted sides this season. And so I think they'll put up a good show, especially at home against Newcastle. You're right. So that's the one that certainly attracts you, is these late goals. And even one of the ones that wasn't so late was 64 minutes. So that's just a fraction short of what we need here. So, yeah, I think with Newcastle, a bit of strength off the bench if they need to chase the result as well. I think we should see another late one here.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think Newcastle, but both of these sides are basically most comfortable attacking on the counter, and therefore, basically, no matter what the scoreline is, I don't see any reason why this would be a cagey last 25 minutes. Both teams, I think Gustavo Harmer settled in incredibly well at Sheffield United. We saw how he made Coventry such a good counter-attacking side. I think Newcastle, Callum Wilson, Harvey Barnes, we've spoken about it before. Like, it's just... Yeah. And even against Milan in the Champions League, where they were worse off, they had opportunities really late in the game on the break to win that tie. So, yeah, I think higher is certainly the way I'm going here. It's 65.5. And that's part one done. But as ever, we have the game. This is the game where I hand over control to these two as we pick a market. And within that market, you guys have to say higher or lower. This time it's just total goals. It's easy as that, the amount of goals in a game. Okay. Yep. And we're kicking off with Burnley against Manchester United, which, as you guys all remember, was
3.05.
Correct.
Important 0 point.
And it'll be higher.
Oh, it will be higher. I thought you were saying without me even saying what game is higher or lower. No. Chelsea, Aston Villa. 3, 2, 1.
Oh, sorry, I was trying to get it all out. There it is. You're
both correct. 2.95. Yes. Interesting. Jack, that's a yellow card there. See you do that again, you're off.
Apologies.
NLD. Arsenal versus Tottenham. 3, 2, 1. Both correct.
Yes.
3.2. Brighton hosting Bournemouth. In a South Coast battle. 3, 2, 1.
Goals galore.
Yeah. 3.65. I'm now going to stop telling you the totals.
Okay, we're too good.
Yeah,
that's what that means.
Liverpool hosting West Ham.
Ooh.
3, 2, 1. Both correct.
Oh.
Sheffield United host Newcastle. 3, 2, 1. Correct.
Oh.
Can you both do it in the same go?
Sweet.
Manchester City against Nottingham Forest.
I got City wrong last week.
3, 2, 1. Both correct.
Learn the lesson. Get in.
3 more questions.
Come on.
Gets tough. Oof. Not this one. Brentford against Everton.
Oh.
3, 2, 1. Now it gets tough.
Ooh.
All right.
Luton against Wolves.
Okay.
Just 2 more questions to go.
Oh, God.
3, 2, 1. Both correct.
Oh, one more.
This is it. I need to make sure. I almost want to get like you have to do something different. Last question. Can you go through the card? Palace against Fulham.
Right.
Eyes closed. 3, 2, 1. Go. What? Open your eyes.
Oh, it is different. It is different.
The winner is Jack! Yes! And the
Very
amazing thing
well
about
done.
that, it was only 0.05 of a difference that last question.
Mate, well done.
Shake hands.
Thank you.
Yeah,
okay,
congratulations.
that's an honourable draw, really.
No, it's not.
Oh,
You
no,
won.
it's not.
There you go, guys. That is this week's episode of Higher or Lower, brought to you by Spreadex and oddschecker. I've been your host, George Elek. I'm delighted to be joined by these two, Dan Worth and Jack Wright, looking ahead to this weekend's football. Make sure you check out Spreadex for all your spread betting needs across football and all sports this weekend. Remember that losses can exceed your initial deposit. They also have an offer for you. So if you haven't already got a Spreadex account, you can sign up and get bet 10, get 40. That's £40 worth of free bets across fixed and spread markets, including total goals. So that game there, if you think any of those are right or wrong, you can make sure you can make the most of those free bets using that. Check out the oddschecker app as well for the best prices, bookie offers, free bets and plenty more. And subscribe to the oddschecker YouTube channel where you can find plenty of higher or lower and other preview content across all sports. We've just done a Ryder Cup preview just now. Spreadex, plenty of Ryder Cup markets there as well ahead of next weekend in Rome. Enjoy this weekend's football. Please ensure that you're gambling responsibly and we'll see you again next week.